One thing that I had people give me a lot of shit for online recently was because Germany is apparently planning to ban the AfD, that is the Alternative for Germany. They are Germany's far right, like political party. However, they have surged to about what was it, 21% in the polls. At least last I checked, that might be different now. But they surged to 21% in the polls. That is a fifth of the population. That is a very considerable number. 1 in 5 people are supporting this party. I wonder what caused that. However, Germany have shot the bed, and Germany, being a democratic nation, are planning on possibly banning the AfD because yeah, that's what democracy is, by the people, for the people, unless the state decides that you're not allowed to run. Now, I say, I'll save it for the end. I'll save it for the end, won't I? Because, last I checked, when countries started banning political opposition, those weren't democratic nations. Those weren't democratic nations. However, there was a similar party back in the 1930s that Germany tried to do this to as well. How'd that work out? There are few countries in the world more conscious of the fragility of democracy than Germany. After the horrors of Nazism, the country vowed never again, and in August 1948, a constitution was drafted for West Germany that was designed to build a stable democracy and defend it. 75 years later, the same legal framework continues to uphold the same values, but the challenges mounted by increasing fanaticism are keenly felt. The temptation to use the constitution's own heavy-handed tools to defend democracy is great, but politicians must resist it. I mean, one thing, isn't it weird how democracy can do anything except vote itself out of democracy? What if it's what the people want? What if that's what the people... I thought that was what democracy was for, like, so that people could vote for what they wanted. They can do that, unless... When the German president Frank-Walter Steinmeier led the celebrations for the 75th anniversary of his country's political inception last week, he warned the German people that in the fight against extremism, there is a historical lesson that runs like a thread through the draft constitution. And that is still relevant today. A democracy has to be able to defend itself against its enemies. Never again must democratic rights be misused to abolish freedom and democracy. However, that's... said with no sense of irony whatsoever, alluding to the way the Nazi Party was able to use its electoral support to destroy Germany's interwar democracy. Steinmeier expressed his deep concern about the rise of the far-right party Alternative for Deutschland, AfD, which is currently polling as the second largest political force. As president, Steinmeier was bound to stand above party politics, so the AfD was not directly mentioned in his speech, but there was no doubt who he was talking about when he said the Constitution cannot encompass those who are enemies of the Constitution. The AfD are actually, like, full disclosure, when I was in UKIP, I hung out with them, right? They're a good bunch of guys, right? I liked them. We had beers. Everyone's saying that they're a Nazi party and they're far right. One of them gave me in trouble because I called something gay, right? I used a little bit more colourful language than that. And he didn't like the language, which doesn't give me the impression of a far-right party, if I'm being perfectly honest. But let's carry on with the article. Almost died there. To many observers, this sounded like a call to ban the AfD. The Constitution allows this if a party or its members seek to undermine or destroy the existing framework of German democracy. But it is one of the bluntest tools in the box. Steinmeier undoubtedly hinted at such drastic measures out of genuine concern for the democratic order his country has so carefully sought to protect. But as head of state, his words carry weight and such threats may backfire, alienating and galvanising AfD voters rather than enticing them back into the mainstream. Now, I will admit, if there was a party that I was, it basically everyone hates the establishment, everyone hates the government. Anyone that's watching this right now, you could be far left, right, far right, doesn't matter. Look me in the eye and tell me that you have the establishment that you want right now. You can't. You never fucking will, especially with the way things are. But basically, well, what point was I making with that? Yeah. Even if I wasn't a supporter of the party and I saw the establishment was trying to ban them, that kind of makes me go, they're onto something. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. They're scared. They're afraid. They're afraid. Vote for them. Vote for them. Vote for them right now. They want something that the government's terrified of. Right. That's the way my mind fucking works. If the government doesn't like it, that makes me go, interesting. I like the thing. Just to make them panic. The idea that political parties can or should be banned is profoundly undemocratic. It is. It is, in fact, undemocratic. And I had people going like, democracy. And I'm like, you're doing the exact same thing that you think the AfD is going to do. Yeah, and it's like, right, okay, so literally it makes no difference whether it's you or the AfD. Literally doesn't matter at this point. You're both enemies of democracy. Literally doesn't matter. You're doing the same shit. Oh, these people are going to like murder people, so we're going to murder the people to stop them from murdering people. Galaxy brain. The freedom of association enshrined in the German constitution allows everyone to found, support and join organisations, including political parties. In 1948, there was an argument for some kind of backstop, given how Nazism had pervaded every aspect of life, and there were still many Germans who believed in its ideals and might have been tempted to set up or vote for parties that embodied them. Now, the problem is, German nationalists have it. As soon as you say, I'm a German nationalist, everyone's like, ooh, like, it scares people, right? And I get it, but the overwhelming majority of German nationalists, like, they're your bog standard nationalists, like, can we secure the border like a little bit? Like, that's the, like, your average, like, grandpa boomer conservative, like, you would get over here. The problem is, they don't fucking talk about it because of the connotations. But it turns out that the voter bloc is a lot bigger than a lot of people suspected, which is making the German establishment very nervous. And the reason I believe like the AfD is becoming so popular is because uncontrolled mass immigration absolutely fucking ravaged Germany. Right, absolutely fucked it up to the point where its architect, Angela Merkel, even came out and said, yeah, this was a bad idea. We fucked up. Like, we fucked up. Yeah. This is bad, right? To the point where she just resigned and fucked off. She realised that she destroyed the country that she was elected to protect, and now the Germans are basically going, "Yep, this is fucking horrendous. We're voting for the AfD now. We need desperate change because of how bad things are." And that's how you get parties that come in like this. You make things really, really bad, so bad that people will eventually go, "Nope, that's enough. We want change." And the change they vote for is probably going to be drastic because, like we said many, many times, when the pendulum swings, it swings back even harder. You know, we were warning you about this for years, but don't panic. Everyone's like, they're far right. They use German words. They're fucking German, right? That's why they use a lot of like the same Nazi language. Yeah, it's called German. They speak German. They're a German party and all that. But the AfD, as I've actually hung out, spoke to them, had a chat with them, they're not Nazis. They're not Nazis. Very conservative, but they're not Nazis. The Federal Constitutional Court used its right to ban parties only twice on a neo-Nazi group in 1952. Fucking hell, man. They tried to get that back up and running pretty fast, didn't they? And on the Communist Party in 1956. Well, no, I'm kidding on. They shouldn't have done that to either of them because obviously it's undemocratic. Since then, decades have passed and German democracy built a reputation as a beacon of stability. I mean, not really. But the ghosts of Germany's past haven't stopped haunting the nation as inflation, party political infighting, and societal divisions. Inflation, a right-wing political party is about to be banned. Where have we heard this before? I've seen this one. And societal divisions plague the country. It is the same perception of crisis that is driving people into the arms of the AfD and causing the centrists to panic. Because you've made, you know, that whole when you make peaceful revolution impossible, etc., etc. People are getting sick of it. You know, you kind of went a little bit to Weimar, and you saw what Weimar resulted in, and now basically people are going, there's going to be another Nazi party. There's going to be a swing to the right. But as for the trains getting loaded up and stuff, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Many prominent political figures and institutions have joined the call for a ban on the AfD. Saskia Esken, co-leader of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democratic Party, I love how Social Democrats, also fuck democracy, ban that party, told the German press that it was in her view that the AfD had anti-constitutional aims, and if this could be proved, this party should be banned. Marco Wonderwitz of the Christian Democrats, once Angela Merkel's Minister for Eastern Germany, where the AfD is particularly strong. I wonder why. I wonder what they had to deal with up until the late 80s, early 90s. Like, that made that such a right-wing area. Also argued that the party fulfilled all the requirements for a ban, and this would give democracy breathing space. Like, I love it. It's all of this is said with no sense of irony whatsoever. Even the influential political magazine Der Spiegel ran a leading article that called for the use of the sharpest weapon available to a democracy ready to defend itself. Thomas Haldenwang, the head of the Domestic Intelligence Agency, which would have to gather the evidence necessary for a legal ban, has also criticised the AfD in public, indicating that he would be happy to help pave the legal path towards such measures. It's afraid. But a party ban would not only be ineffective, it would also prove that Germany's democratic ecosystem is so out of kilter that the most drastic legal measure available is required to set it right. Which basically means it is a controlled democracy, and when it's controlled democracy, it's not a democracy. It is basically only pre-approved political opinions are allowed to run and to hold the reins. Now, the problem with that is, basically, political solutions that people are seeking have been banned are essentially being banned from taking part in the democratic process. However, a fifth of the population want those changes, and you've told them, no, go fuck yourself. You will live under a type of government that you don't want. In fact, you are not allowed to take part in the democratic process. A fifth of the country. I don't have to say anything. Anybody with 2 brain cells is going to know how bad that is going to turn out. It never usually turns out well. I mean, even Saddam Hussein, when he did that, had fucking boogaloos happen to him. I think Saddam Hussein had about 6 boogaloos happen. But I mean, it was Saddam Hussein, so he came down on those hard. Apparently, some guys feel like the first boogaloo were like, even when Saddam Hussein was like overthrown, guys from the first boogaloo were found still alive in the jails, but they had suffered like the most horrendous torture for decades. It was fucking mental. For one thing, many AfD voters have turned to the party because they have lost trust in the established political parties and public institutions. When they see other parties, newspapers, the domestic spy agency, and the president all singing from the same hymn sheet, it confirms feelings of persecution and fuels conspiracy theories. The party has already launched legal measures against Haldenwang and others as its polling figures hit record highs this summer. It sounds like the people are using democracy to make their voice heard, and if you tell the people to shut the fuck up, well, you know, here comes the sowing. Prepare for the reaping. A recent survey even indicated that 10% of the AfD voters want their party banned because they think they can gain a political advantage from this. Yeah, it's true. One thing that we've established about, cancel culture, if someone's big enough and you try and cancel them and you come after them, you just make them bigger. It wasn't even just cancel culture. That's literally what happened with the National Socialist Party of Germany. I forget the fucking name, right? I don't read up too much on it, but that's the exact same thing that they did to Hitler. That's the exact same thing that they did to them. And look what happened. Look what happened. The opposite of what, oh no, we tried to do something. And the opposite, this is the one thing we didn't want to happen, right? But hey ho, if you want to, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. If the party didn't formally exist, it would be much harder to monitor the activities of its members and supporters. When Otto von Bismarck, Germany's first chancellor from 1871 to 1890, banned the SPD, that was exactly what happened. Members formed underground networks, stood as independent candidates in elections, and galvanised their support base. But most importantly, a party ban simply would not address the problem. If the surveys are correct, up to 21% of the German electorate would currently vote for the AfD. That means millions of people are unhappy with the status quo, the vast majority of whom will have voted for mainstream parties in the past. While the party is rapidly radicalising, its supporters cannot be written off wholesale as irretrievable extremists. That was not the impression I got from them when I was hanging out with them. Taking the political vehicle of their discontent away would do nothing to alleviate the discontent itself. As one German political scientist put it, you cannot place a ban on opinions and attitudes. You're absolutely correct, but good Lord, the West is trying. Germany must resist the urge to reach for the political crutches that helped it make its first steps towards democracy after fascism and war. 75 years have passed since then. It's time for German democracy to confront its its problems rather than silence their expression. Full disclosure right away, if you ban the AfD, it will massively backfire. It will massively backfire if the German government tries to do that. What you're doing is anti-democratic. You are doing the exact same thing that you are claiming to be trying to prevent, right? And everyone can see that. So in fact, the fact that you are considering this and it's now out there and in the news cycle and it's all over Germany, that's just going to galvanize everybody even further. That's going to make people feel very sus, where they're going to go, you're the ones banning political opposition. We don't think that we're the authoritarians here. You're the ones that are fucking pulling this shit. It will massively backfire. It will. So I hope they do it.